On this episode of Cold Blooded Cousins, we're going to show you the life of taipans. And not just that, we're going to get you a perspective of what it's like in their environment. Like out here.
We're in the habitat of the inland taipan, Oxyuranus microlepidotus.
But it's not just the inland taipan we're looking for. We're looking for three species of taipan. The inland taipan, of course, the western desert taipan, which is quite a hard snake to find, and the coastal taipan,
which is also quite hard to find despite it being one of the most famous snakes in the world.
A lot of them are remote, a lot of them they're far from people. The coastal taipan is near a lot of people, but it's just so wary of people, people don't often see them.
All taipans are really shy, and that's going to make our job that much more difficult to observe them in the wild. So let's see if we can go find one.
Let's do it.
Our journey starts in Perth, where we make our way through the deserts of Western Australia in search of the Central Ranges taipan, also known as the Western Desert taipan. We then head from Alice Springs to Coober Pedy to find the most venomous snake in the whole world, the inland taipan, or also known as the fierce snake. And finally, it's off to tropical North Queensland to find the coastal taipan. Coastal taipans are found throughout the top end of Australia. However, Cairns is a well-known hotspot to find these snakes. This is going to be one epic journey.
So, a bit of a change of plans. Unfortunately, we can't get down to Ilkirka, which is the hotspot for these Western Ranges taipans, because there's a bunch of fires just all across the track. It's 500 k's on a dirt track. We're going to head on to Alice Springs, which is over 1,000 k's from where we are now, so it's going to be a long drive.
Finally make it to the habitat of the Central Ranges taipan. This area is mostly dominated by spinifex and mulga trees. We pass through interchanging habitats of sand dunes and rocky outcrops. While I'm filming, Steve's always looking for snakes, and he's trying to find where I am too. On this trip we came across many bushfires that were started from lightning strikes. A lot of the best habitat was all burnt out, and when this happens, snakes will hide for a long time deep down in burrows where it's nice and safe and they can't get burnt. This makes it really difficult for us to find them. We come across many western brown snakes, or guadas as they're also called, that fool us into thinking they are taipans. It's not until we get a close look at the snake and notice they behave a lot different to a taipan. Usually a taipan will raise its head to get a better look of what's going on. They are super smart snakes. They also have different body movements to a brown snake, and while brown snakes are super alert and fast, taipans are even more. This western brown had us fooled for a while. It had the exact same colours as the Western Desert taipan. There were a couple of days it was 47 degrees and we were just about to give up. Well, we actually did give up, and as we were heading off we spot a beautiful snake in the middle of the road. It had its head raised up in the air, and Steve and I look at each other and we shout, "Taipan!"
So we got a Western Desert taipan. Beautiful snake. This snake, it's taken us about 7 days to find in a really hot country. And this is one of the newly described taipans. And look at that build, he's very, very slender. He's not a huge snake, built for speed and getting through this country really quick.
We reckon he's about 1.2 metres roughly, which is a young one. Though the Western Ranges taipan is the smallest of all the taipans. Now the reason there's not much information on this snake is less than 20 have been found. They were only discovered 10 or 15 years ago, and this is the first one to have been seen in about a year. The last one was seen by my mate Ross all the way down in Inglekirka where we couldn't actually get to. Whoa. And look, he's responding a little bit to the movement. Every time I move, he jerks. That's a typical taipan thing. All the taipans are very responsive to movement. I'll just give you a bit of an example. See, I've just moved. Whoa. And he's
looking at me because I moved.
Now he's on the move. Alright. So, I'm going to move him off the road. This is the first Western Ranges taipan. I can't say too many other people would have handled one of these. The taipans are just a super alert snake. They're super quick and super agile. They're the taipan group, particularly the coastal taipans, are right up there with the black mamba for the most difficult to handle snakes. Generally these guys are known to be pretty quiet, but this one's young. Young snakes are a lot more nervous and flighty and therefore a lot more dangerous. Far quicker to bite when harassed, and they've got big fangs. I don't like to use the word intelligence with animals because it's not really a good accurate way of describing how the mind works, but they're certainly a smart and very alert and switched on snake. When you're handling a taipan, the way they look at you, it's the same way that a king cobra looks at you. They kind of just stare at you, and it gives you shivers up the spine a little bit if you're not used to it.
Look at those scales. Built for the desert. So you'll notice Steve isn't really looking at the camera. Now the reason for this is because he's watching every bit of movement that the snake does. He's kind of in focus with the snake and the snake's in focus with us.
Look at that. And while he's super alert, he's not super grumpy at the moment. But as you'll see, he's not trying to have a go at me at all.
Taipans are so smart, they know moving backwards makes it awkward for you to hold them.
So there's 3 species of taipan. There's this, the Western Ranges, or Central Ranges taipan I should say. There's the inland taipan, which we're about to go look for. And then there's the coastal taipan, found up in North Queensland.
This one is the most difficult to find out of all of them.
Mostly because it lives in the most remote areas of Australia, if not the world.
Steve now decides to move the snake far off into the bush where it can't be hit by a car. Notice how he's got that straw white colour to him, the same colour as the spinifex. This probably helps the snake camouflage during the day while it hunts. And just look at that quick head movement.
This area is all burnt out, which is probably why it's easy to see him today. Now this is one of the rarest snakes in Australia, though they might not be that uncommon. They live in just some of the most remote parts of the Australian outback, in a few very selected locations. It's been a year since someone spotted one of these guys. The last person to spot one was my mate Ross, and one's not been seen out here for 2 years, and that last one, or those last 3, was spotted by my mate Dan.
Let's see if I back away slowly. He doesn't mind too much. It's the quick movements around snakes they don't like. Watch this. There's my boot right there, and I moved very slow.
The snake finally has enough of us and coils around itself in defense. It's not the S position, but it's basically saying, well, go on, try and touch me, I'll probably bite you. This is great for us, because it means we can get a good photo of it and some good film, but the snake ends up settling down and realises we're not a threat to it. To me, this snake is just really shy and nervous, and the whole time we've been filming it, it's been trying to get away from us. It definitely hasn't set out to chase us and bite us, that's for sure. And now this snake is really chilled, we can get nice and close to it.
The taipan in Australia has a huge reputation for being a very dangerous snake. That is true, but in most circumstances, if you're near a taipan, it's going to run far away from you as quick as possible. They're super fast snakes and they're really, really shy, so they'll get out your way before you can actually even see them.
Steve gets some photos and I'm actually awestruck we found this snake. I'm starting to find out these snakes have a really gentle side to them.
Awesome, a Western Desert Taipan. Can't wait to find the other Taipans on this trip.
We passed through Uluru, or Ayers Rock as it's also known. It's definitely a beautiful sight and a must visit, so we go check it out. But enough sightseeing, we've got taipans to catch. We set up camp that night with high excitement of the next snake we're about to go look for. Steve and I have wanted to find this snake our whole lives, and as we arrive in Cooper Pedy, we have high hopes.
We've made it to inland taipan habitat, and look at it. It's vast, there's nothing out here, but the snakes, they love it. The reason for that is because they live in the soil cracks in the dirt, and they can stay in there for months during the in this harsh environment. So what we're doing now, we're just driving the roads, and hopefully we can just see one cruising about, having a bask maybe next to a soil crack. We're not too sure exactly when prime time is to find these snakes, but we'll figure it out, I think.
To search for all species of taipans, it's a good idea to look for gullies, as this is where there are lots of holes for the snakes to hide in. The habitat in which inland taipans live in is called the black soil plains. These plains are vast and look featureless, but they are full of cracks and holes in the soil, which is made from rain erosion, and it sometimes can take years to rain out here. Old taipans are mostly active during the day, meaning that they are mostly diurnal. They search around these holes looking for their favourite food, which is rats, and these holes can be quite large. The soil is like walking on a giant sponge, and it's always changing shape depending on weather conditions. We thought it would be a good idea to pop our head out through the sunroof. This made it a heap easier to tell the difference between a piece of tyre or a snake. And as luck has it, only after 10 minutes of looking, we spot a huge snake on the road.
So out basking on this road this morning, we've got an inland taipan. And in terms of the LD50 chart, he is the most toxic land snake in the world. Now, I'm generally one to talk down the dangers of snakes, but I've had a couple of friends be bitten by these guys. It was quite nasty. I've survived. No one's died from a bite from one of these. They've got a reputation for having quite a docile nature, and while he's fairly calm, they are certainly not a snake to be trusted when you're handling them, because they can just change their mood and change what they're doing in an instant. Give them an inch and they'll take a mile. That's why I'm holding him so far away from my body at the moment. And they're lightning fast. Like all taipans, they've got a good sense of sight and highly responsive to movement. Now that said, the general public, the only people that need to worry about this snake is the people that work with it. This snake lives in some of the most remote parts of outback Australia, and so their opportunity to bite, they're quite a shy and secretive snake, so their opportunity to bite is minimal. They spend most of their time down soil cracks. They only come above the surface to bask in the morning and occasionally hunt in the afternoon. Old taipans have that coffin-shaped head, the large scales on the back of the head, and they've got a build. It's been explained to me that their build is somewhat like a perfectly balanced Ferrari, perfectly balanced Formula One racing car. It's really heavy and strong in the middle, but the tail and the head are both very small and whippy, so they can move very fast and with a lot of power. Now this one's still quite dark. They change colours throughout the year, depending on the season. This one's got winter colours. They get darker in the winter months. All taipans do that, so they can absorb more sunlight and get warmer a lot quicker in the cooler months. So he's mostly feeding on native rodents that live down the cracks. That's why they think they have quite a toxic venom. The rodents here are quick to attack. Most Australian snakes have short fangs as well. So he's got quite long fangs and very potent venom. Now that is to immobilise his prey very quickly and retreat. When he bites one of them, the floodplain rats, they're going to get envenomated and die very quickly, but he can retreat back to a safe distance so they can't attack him and bite him and scratch him up. And it's a very good way of surviving out here. It's a very harsh environment. They've got a bright yellow underbelly. And you see those spots, occasionally they get mistaken for brown snakes because brown snakes have orange spots. He doesn't have a whole lot of them, but that's all taipans. I could feel him build up only for a split second before that happened. And that's what I mean. He looked like he was starting to really relax there, and I just moved enough for him to go, "I've got you." Luckily, I was paying attention. But as I keep saying, unless you work with these snakes, there is nothing to worry about. Taipans just like to get away from people. The only people who have been bitten by this particular species have all been people who have worked with them, as far as I'm aware anyway.
If you haven't noticed already, this snake is also moving backwards, just like the Western Desert taipan was. And in this paused frame, you can see the tails wrapped around Stephen's hand. This is a super smart technique that taipans do to make you feel uncomfortable.
So we better move him off the road, because this area, it's got plenty of mining trucks coming along here. And he'd be flattened for sure out basking. Let him go hunt off in the black soil. Alright, that should be far enough. Go back that way, mate. Other way. There we are. No, other way, other way. There we go.
He's just staring straight at you, wondering what's going on.
So we're just having a stare off right now. I've just released him. I don't want him to come back towards the road. So he's just staring at me. As I said before, they've got really good visual receptors and very sensitive to movement. So I'm keeping my distance because if I got any closer, he might have a go at me. But just from here, he's just got his body raised in a defensive posture. And that's his way of letting me know not to get any closer. Message taken, mate. Message taken. I might get a few photos of him now, actually.
Like all reptiles, taipans are cold-blooded and need the heat to warm up. This helps them to be fast enough to catch their prey.
He's still cool. He's still cool. He's not warm enough yet. And that's the big problem with snakes and other reptiles on the road. They'll just sit out there and they'll get run over all the time because they're too cool to move off before a vehicle comes. So please, when you're driving on the road, keep your eye out for snakes and lizards. And please don't hit them.
And all wildlife for that matter. The amount of wildlife we see hit on the road is horrific.
This is Australia's most venomous snake. And it's actually the world's most venomous snake too. So what me and Steve are trying to do on this trip is just film taipans in the wild and get a different perspective of them. Something not many people have done before. And we just want to show the behaviour of taipans and the way they live in their environment. It's certainly an interesting snake. And probably Steve and I's favourite species of snake. Now he's just having a sunbake here, and you can see Stephen's keeping really still on the camera there, but my slow movements, he's watching every bit of movement. They got great eyesight. Now the reason why they have great eyesight is because they hunt during the day, and what they hunt is for rats. They search in between burrows in these soil cracks, and they need to be really quick, and they need to have really good eyesight to catch these rats because they're quite fast. So this is snake number 2 on our list. We've already found the Western Desert Taipan, and now we found the inland Taipan. Probably thinking, what is that strange person doing out here? And just look how that sun reflects off his scales. Just shimmers beautiful.
All taipan venom is quite complex. It contains neurotoxins and procoagulants. This basically means the venom can cause paralysis and problems with blood clotting. This is extremely useful for the snake, as rats are a large prey item. The snake needs to kill it quick, otherwise it could face serious injury from the rat bite. We decide to leave the snake be and head off to a new inland taipan spot. We're now heading towards Queensland, through the Simpson Desert. Looking for taipans definitely isn't easy, and Mother Nature can throw a heap of things at you, as we were about to find out going deeper in the Aussie outback. Still on the lookout for more inland taipan. Driving such a small four-wheel drive limits us to going to a lot of areas. It's really important you know what your car's capable of.
Well, right now we're in an amazing spot for taipans. There's a risk of a little bit of rain tonight, a couple of mil, but then tomorrow there could be up to 15 mil. That just turns to pus and really soft mud with the tiniest bit of rain. So
Yeah, and look at those clouds out there, that doesn't look too good.
we're basically going to be stuck out. If we do get rain, we'll be stuck out here for about up to 5 days, if not more, if we get more rain. So
Yeah. This is the most remote part of the trip here. We're probably far from people. Beautiful country, but it's just a shame that there's rain, but we're going to keep pushing on.
So this is the rain we're talking about, or the moisture. We're taking a little rabbit track next to this road, as that is all just mud now. It's soft as. And any more water, and this rabbit track's going to be just like that.
It took us 2 hours to get to this spot, and now we have to turn around and go all the way back.
The black soil plains are going to get us back through all this water. Oh, that's muddy.
So we've got a bit of a dust storm out here with this approaching storm. Look at that.
A really strong headwind we're driving into.
Look at this. And this is why we're heading back, because this is super dangerous. Huge dust storm.
Wow, that's massive.
Starting to get hectic out here. Probably only 15 k's from town.
Yeah, but we've just got the rain hit and we've got to get off it quick but safely. Those because this road with just a little bit of rain will turn into mud, and very soft mud very quickly. It's already muddy in many sections, like just right next to where we're driving. We've also got strong winds and dust and lightning and breeze to contend with. The tracks, actually, I can hear it now, that track's just starting to get real muddy here now. Just that tiny bit of rain has done enough.
Yeah, listen to that.
Well, thankfully we're back on the bitumen now. We just got here in time. We're just heading into Birdsview and decide what to do then on. We might have to make camp somewhere here because I'm pretty sure just all of the tracks around here are going to be pretty horrible tonight. So.
A few days later, we start entering coastal Queensland, around the area of Cairns. And Cairns is the main area for the coastal Taipan. The word Taipan actually originates from Queensland. It's an Aboriginal word from a tribe in Cape York.
We're in North Queensland at the moment, a place that's generally famous for its rainforest, but it's actually mostly full of this scrub. And this is where you find the coastal taipan, probably the most famous and notorious of all the taipan species. We're here to show you that they're not the danger that they're perceived to be.
Yep, they usually try and get out your way really quick, and on this film we're going to try and prove how shy they just actually are.
It's really difficult to find them in the wild and film them, so we've got a real challenge ahead of us.
You reckon, Steve? Should we go chase some coastal taipans?
Let's go look for some snakes, mate.
Let's do it, mate.
The native habitat of the coastal taipan is usually grassy woodlands. But since white man's arrival in Australia, rats have plagued the farms, especially the sugarcane fields. And where there's rats, there's gonna be taipans. There are two species of rat that lives in these cane fields, the cane field rat and the climbing rat. Taipans are a cane farmer's best friend. They help get rid of the rats. Sadly, some farmers still kill these snakes, just out of fear. And recently, they've started aerial baiting for these rats, so it's going to make it harder to find taipans. Given permission on private property, Steve has a look around. See that rock line down in that gully? That is a taipan hotspot. Taipans don't necessarily live in the cane fields, but along the edges, in the rocky bits. And here, Steve spots a beautiful black coastal. Speaking of rats, this snake has had a good feed.
Big taipan here looks like it's just eaten a rat, or maybe even a bandicoot.
The reason why you search for these snakes in winter is because the snakes are quite slow. They need to warm up. The best time to find them is after a cold night and a sunny morning. This snake's just eaten and now needs to warm up to digest its food. Winter's also breeding season and the time the males are on the move, and they still need to warm up to go chase the ladies. You can see the snake isn't even bothered by Stephen, and it's just trying to get to its hole on the other side of the cane farm. And as usual, Steve's movements are slow. Taipans can breed all year round, but usually winter's the time when you spot gravid females having a sunbake. Male taipans will also fight to win the female over. After around 3 months, a female taipan will start laying her eggs. Around about an average of 11 eggs is usual. A good number is about 21 eggs. They've also been known to lay 2 clutches in a year from the same snake that it mated with. It can take 3 months for the eggs to hatch, and when the taipans come out, they're almost half a metre long. Quite unusual to most other snakes, taipans grow quite fast, and it doesn't take them too long to reach maturity. We've got the film we need for this snake. Now Steve keeps on looking around the farm to see what else he can find.
Oh, there's a little taipan under this one.
This taipan's probably a recent hatchling, and just look how fast he is trying to get away from Steve. He's definitely already got the attitude of his parents. It's been well known taipans eat small mammals, but the babies have also been noted to eat small lizards. It doesn't take them long from going from eating small mice to big rats. It can be very misunderstood that small snakes are more dangerous than the adults. when in fact the adults have bigger venom glands and therefore retain more venom. Sometimes the babies actually will give a dry bite and not actually inject venom. Although in saying that, in all sizes of taipans, the venom is equally strong. I've noticed taipans sense things with their mouth. They actually bite to feel what it is. They already know the venom they got. This one's really curious to what our tripod is and thinks of it as a threat. It's time for Steve to move to a new area where he finds a huge coastal, a good example of a beautiful adult snake. And here it is. Steve spots this snake cruising along the path during the day. Taipans have another trick up their sleeve. The open mouth threat sure is intimidating. The snake is saying, "Get any closer and I will bite." So Steve keeps his distance and keeps filming it. This open mouth is common with venomous snakes, but taipans do this exceptionally well. Coastals are Australia's longest venomous snake, an average size of about 2 metres, although some specimens have been recorded close to 3 metres. That's getting close to 10 feet and about 6 kilograms in weight. This probably explains when you hold one long enough, they start to feel quite heavy. Like nearly every taipan we find, this one's cruising about in a gully. Steve gets some amazing shots of this snake as it cruises about in the afternoon. Like all snakes, taipans are great swimmers, and this one takes to the water. The snake decides to climb along his stick back to his burrow. We can't believe all the taipans we've already filmed, and this film has been a great success.
So, I hope you guys enjoyed the film of the life of taipans.
I certainly enjoyed the trip, it was epic.
Yeah, it was sick. We found heaps of different snakes, plenty of taipans.
And the 3 main species, so that's awesome. They're not the dangerous animals that they're made out to be. You just give them a bit of respect and you'll be right. Alright, well we're going to leave you with it and we're going to go look for some more snakes, eh Carl?
Yeah, well we're in beautiful North Queensland, so we may as well keep looking for taipans.
Alright, see you later.
See ya.